Good afternoon everyone. In this video, today we will learn about plasma membrane. Now what is this plasma membrane? These are generally present at the outside of the cell but inside of the cell wall, and it's a major part of the cell envelope in case of the bacteria as well as the eukaryotic cell. These plasma membrane usually give protection to the cell cytoplasm. Now today we will learn about that what kind of constituents are there, like the plasma membrane contain the lipids or the proteins, like that. So for this to explain, a very simple model has been followed known as fluid mosaic model, which is actually explained by a very famous scientist, Singer and Nicholson. Okay, so in this fluid mosaic model, there are two lipid bilayers or two lipid layers. There's a two lipid layers that are outside, and there is very lighter interior layer which is a protein. So this model simply explains that a plasma membrane contains two lipid bilayer in which the proteins float, and this is exactly seen as a structure under the transmission electron microscope. There are two very dark sheets on the either side of this lighter interior layer. So these are the lipid bilayers and these are the protein. Okay, this is a very simple model. Now, the lipids which are present in the plasma membrane. These lipids are amphipathic in nature. What is it? It is amphipathic. Amphipathic means they are structurally asymmetric. Why? Because they have a polar end and a non-polar end. These polar ends of the lipid is basically hydrophilic in nature. Means water loving. And the non-polar ends are basically hydrophobic. Means they don't love the water. They will not interact with the water. But this polar end easily interact with the water. So whenever the cell that is in the aqueous solution, which is very natural thing, the polar ends of the amphipathic lipids will extended outward from the cell membrane, and this portion, the non-polar region of the lipid, they will buried inside the plasma membrane. If it's a plasma membrane, okay, these are the lipids. Now these portions are the polar regions which are extending outside. This is the outside and this is inside. Okay, so this is the arrangement of the lipid in the plasma membrane. Now, what about the proteins? There are generally two types of proteins are present in the plasma membrane. One is protein. First one is protein. Two types of protein. One is peripheral protein and another one is integral protein. Now, what is peripheral protein? Peripheral protein are loosely bound with the plasma membrane, extended outside, and that will made up to 20 to 30% of the membrane protein, sorry. And they are loosely attached also and easily can be washed off with the help of detergents and all. In case of the integral protein, it is more similar with the membrane lipids, like they also have a polar and non-polar end. And same as the membrane lipids, the polar ends are hydrophilic and the non-polar ends are hydrophobic. So the integral proteins, they are very tightly bound with the membrane lipids in the plasma membrane bilayer, and polar ends are extended outside and the non-polar ends are buried inside the plasma membrane. So these are the membranes, these are the membrane proteins and lipids. Now, one most important thing is the plasma membrane. This plasma membrane is very much dynamic in nature. Why? Because the amphipathic lipids which are present in the plasma membrane, they are basically phospholipids in nature. Okay, they are basically phospholipids. These phospholipids that can change according to the temperature or the environmental condition. Basically the temperature, it's a major factor. Like those bacteria which grow at a very low temperature, they have much more unsaturated fatty acid. Unsaturated fatty acids means the carbon atoms are attached one another or each other with the help of one or more double covalent bonds. And those bacteria which will grow at a very high temperature, they have saturated fatty acid, means their carbon atoms are attached with the help of single covalent bonds. Okay, so this one for low temperature and this one for high temperature. So nothing is conserved. It's not like the bacteria is only have the saturated fatty acid or only have the unsaturated. No, it's not like that. The plasma membrane rather is very dynamic in nature, and according to the temperature and environmental condition, it will change accordingly and help to protect the cell from the environmental conditions. Now, another important thing is these type of structures of the bacterial cell membrane or the plasma membrane is very much similar with the eukaryotic cell membrane. But one major dissimilarity or the difference between the eukaryotic and the bacterial cell membrane is what? The eukaryotic cell always contain steroids in their membrane. They always contain steroids. But in case of the bacteria, no steroids are there. There are no steroids. But later, in case of few bacteria, the scientists can visualize that some sterol-like substances are present in the bacterial cell membrane, which are known as hopanoids. These hopanoids are basically sterol-like substances which are present in the plasma membrane of the bacterial cell, but not in case of the all bacteria, few bacteria. So, the plasma membrane, that is the major constituent of the cell envelope which give the protection to the cytoplasm, and it follows the fluid mosaic model. And according to the model, there are lipid bilayers into which the protein will float. And as we can see, the lipids are amphipathic in nature. Phospholipids are mostly present, and the plasma membrane is very much dynamic, which I have already mentioned. And the proteins are two types which are present in the membrane. One is integral, one is peripheral. The integral protein follows the same structural asymmetric condition as the membrane lipids, the polar non-polar end. So this is the story of the plasma membrane of the bacterial cell wall. Hope this video will help you, and thank you so much for watching this video.